We actually screw up. So we should, okay, never mind. Anyways, one day we'll do a blooper show, and it'll be mostly my voice.
Welcome to AT Banter, the podcast where we discuss anything and everything regarding the world of assistive technology. With our hosts, Steve Barkley, Rob Minot, and Ryan Fleury. Now, let's banter.
And hey, and welcome to yet another episode of AT Banter. It's another week. It is September. Finally.
Yay.
Unbelievable.
Winter's here.
It's not here yet.
Pretty quick.
Snow ain't falling.
It is up in the mountains.
Well, Whistler.
Whistler,
sure.
yeah. It's not that far.
But it certainly feels fallish today.
Yep.
It feels like November out there today.
Oh, stop your whining. Whiners. It's
Vancouver.
beautiful. It's beautiful. It's getting up to 18 today.
18
degrees.
Wow.
Is it really?
That's Celsius, folks.
That's right.
Yeah, in case you're listening from the excited states.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
isn't it 2 months till the election, isn't it? November?
Ooh, it is, yeah.
Oh,
It's going to be a barn burner, this one.
Yeah. Yes. It's kind of like voting for Mon Mothma or the Emperor. It's a Star Wars reference for
Yes, it is.
Okie dokie.
I have to get one in every episode.
Yeah.
So how was your long weekend?
Mine was fairly uneventful, but it always seems to fly by.
Yeah, 3 days never seem like all that much. It's almost cruel. Long weekends are almost cruel because it's just long enough that it's a little extra, but not long enough to really sink in.
Yeah. And dragging your bum back to work on the Tuesday is pretty hard.
It is. But schools are back in now, so
Yep.
exciting times for the kids.
That's right. So today, later today, we're going to be talking a little bit with Shawn Marsolais from Blind Beginnings, which is a local nonprofit organization here catered to blind and visually impaired
Youth.
We're excited for that.
And they're doing some pretty exciting stuff, so it's going to be fun talking to Shawn.
Absolutely. Anybody got anything else? Anything interesting happen? Any thoughts, anecdotes, poetry?
Nope.
No?
Wow. Steve's got nothing?
You didn't do anything this weekend? How was the pod like?
I played video games.
Oh, did you? What did you play?
Fallout.
Yeah, Fallout 4.
Yeah.
I love building that settlement.
Yeah, my son, he got me hooked on that, and yeah, it's now his fault.
So are you far in?
Well, I'm up to about level 15, I think, and
Okay.
my son's level 70 something. So
Right, you got to waste.
I'm not catching up to him anytime soon.
I love those open world games.
I like collecting the weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and killing super mutants.
Damn super mutants.
Any robots?
Yeah, there's
Oh,
robots.
tons.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of which, did you get the email I sent you from one of our listeners?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did.
We got email.
We got
did.
an email.
Really?
Yeah.
About someone's favorite robots and a couple that we missed.
Oh,
I wasn't familiar with them, but
Rosie from the Jetsons.
well, of course, yes.
As
So
well.
that one. I
Oh,
was.
sure, yeah.
And a robot from Lost in Space.
Lost in Space, of
Right,
course.
yeah.
We did miss that. The other one, Riptide. Was that? Was that 80s sort of pseudo action series with the guys with the helicopter? Is that Riptide?
I couldn't tell
I'm
you.
going to have to Google that. An 80s robot in any sense.
Drawing a blank.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to Google that one. And who sent that to us, Ryan?
Her name was Marilyn.
Well, thanks,
Don't
Marilyn.
have her last name.
Well, thanks, Marilyn.
Yay, Marilyn.
It's nice to know people are listening.
It is.
Yeah,
We're not just screaming into a vacuum.
that's right.
All right. Well, we are very happy to have with us as a guest today in the studio, Shawn Marsolais, who is the founder of a local organization here called Blind Beginnings. Thanks for coming in, Shawn.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start off right at the beginning and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I grew up in New Westminster. I was diagnosed with RP when I was 5 years old. And I didn't actually know that I was visually impaired, though, until I was 12. So my parents kind of decided that they would not tell me. They didn't want me to give up on life, and they didn't really know, how do you tell a 5-year-old that she's going blind? So until I was 12, I was just a typical kid, a little bit uncoordinated, I thought, and a little bit clumsy, but was able to do most things that most kids could do. And then as I was starting high school, realized that I had a visual impairment that was degenerative, and sort of kind of went through that transition, and took a while to kind of come to terms with the fact that I was visually impaired, but my vision was deteriorating as I was kind of adjusting to that. And many years later, here I am, and I started an organization to help kids that are blind and their families so that they can have sort of an easier transition.
So are you totally blind now, Shawn?
No, I don't really see an eye doctor regularly anymore, but I can see shapes and movement in my peripheral vision. So I don't have any central vision. It's kind of like looking through a really cloudy window. I can still see light. I can tell that the lights are on, and some movement off to the sides, but not any real functional vision.
Right.
Now, one thing that I note that you just glossed over there, and actually you didn't even mention it at all, is that you're a Paralympian.
She's a medalist.
No, I'm not a medalist. Don't start that rumor.
Aren't you?
No. I think my best performance was 6th. I won a medal, but not at the Paralympics.
Oh, I see.
The
Okay.
world bronze medal at Worlds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So actually, I guess when I was 18, I started competitive swimming, and I went to the Canada Summer Games. I was one of the first disabled athletes to compete at the Canada Summer Games. And that was kind of when I decided I wanted to go to the Paralympics. So I swam competitively for 6 years, but didn't actually make the team. I was an alternate. And then a couple years later, I entered a tandem cycling race just kind of for fun, and I won. And I sort of, my Paralympic dream was reborn, and I trained for a few more years and ended up going to Athens and competing at the Paralympics. So that was pretty cool. And I would say, like, competitive sport was one place where I wasn't embarrassed to be blind. Being on a tandem bike, or even being guided around the pool with my tapper, who would like hit me on the head with this styrofoam ball when I got to the wall. That was kind of how you know to stop. I felt proud, because there was like being an athlete with a disability made me special in some way, where just being a person with a white cane walking down the street kind of makes you not feel special. I don't know. So I think being in competitive sport, as much as, I mean, it was positive in lots of ways, because I got to travel and see places I didn't really ever think I would go, and just be part of a team and be physically fit and active. But it also was one area where I wasn't embarrassed to have a disability.
So let's talk a bit about Blind Beginnings. First off, why don't you tell us about how you got started with Blind Beginnings? What brought it all about?
I was working for CNIB as the coordinator of children's services, and I felt like we just needed to be doing more for kids and their parents in this province. I thought there needed to be an organization that was just for kids, for children and youth. So I quit my job, and I didn't know the first thing about running a nonprofit. I just was really passionate about providing services to kids and their families. I know that if my family had had more support when I was young, I probably would have had an easier time. So that was my motivation. And yeah, one step at a time, it was like, let's find a name, and how do we start a society, and how do we get registered as a charity? And just Blind Beginnings was born.
What are some of the services you offer?
So we provide a range of services to children, youth, parents, and families. We have family camps, summer camp programs. We have workshops. We have a youth leadership training program, which is kind of getting youth volunteer experience, presentation experience. They're working on projects together, and it's all really based around pre-employment. A creating confidence workshop. This past summer, we took kids. Part of the workshop was taking them to the mall and how do you pick out clothes if you can't see? How do you know, that you look cool or not cool? What else do we do? With Junior Explorers clubs, parent support groups, parent workshops. So really anything that will help the child reach their potential and help the parents support them so that they're successful.
Do you interface at all with educators? Obviously schools are a big part of what the kids are going through in the younger years. So how do you connect with education? We actually, our best programs are the programs that we have teachers of the visually impaired involved. So the TVIs are part of our youth leadership training. They work at our summer camps. They're helping out with the Junior Explorers clubs. And we definitely want to sort of bring some instruction to the kids without them realizing that they're learning something. So at the Junior Explorers Club, sometimes we'll prepare food. So they're learning to get comfortable preparing food. And they're getting some instruction on how to do that without vision, but they're just having fun making food, which they're often not allowed to do at home. And they don't realize that they're learning. So we'll also bring in mobility, the youth leadership program they have to work as teams. What do we call it? The mobility challenge, and find their way to the restaurant where they're going to have dinner. And, hopefully everyone gets to the restaurant eventually. Have you ever lost anyone?
Oh, just the once. No. But that was when I was working for CNIB, so it's okay.
Didn't impact on this organization.
No, it didn't lose them permanently. It was just a momentary, forgot somebody in the bathroom. And it was my volunteers, the sighted volunteers that were supposed to be, making sure they had everybody. But now I'm extra careful.
Oops.
Yeah.
Sound off.
And now, so what age ranges do you primarily work with?
Primarily, birth to 19, but a lot of the kids in the young 20s are sticking with the program. So we had to create a youth mentor role within our youth leadership program because they weren't leaving when they turned 20. So I think our oldest youth is 27 now. And we're actually looking at how do we kind of formalize the program for those young adults, because there's not a lot for them either. So we're looking at next year doing sort of a leadership training part 2, a residential program where they would live for 5 days in a home and they have to meal plan, go shopping for all their food, shop within a budget, prepare their own meals, do laundry, clean, learn all those life skills. Right. And that's going to be 18 to 25 years of age. So I don't cut anybody off at any point. Blind Beginnings is for kids, for people who lose their vision in their early years, though, like losing your vision before you're 19. If you lost your vision and you're 20, then probably CNIB is there to support you. But there's a big difference in having no vision from birth versus losing your vision once you've already kind of seen the world and know what things look like. Right. And so that's what we're really good at, is teaching kids, concepts and skills that they wouldn't have gotten with, they didn't have vision when they were learning those skills.
So are there any plans to, say, expand in the future, as your first generation of kids sort of age out of it, are there plans in the future to maybe develop something, an offshoot company even for young adults? People ask me that all the time, like, you need blind middles or
blind continuations.
Yeah. I don't think so. I mean, beyond the kind of early 20s, I think we're going to start doing more career counseling kind of stuff for youth, just to get them better prepared for looking for a job and stuff. But I feel like if we did expand, then we're just going, one of the challenges I thought working for CNIB was the organization supports people from birth to death and everything in between. And there is a big difference in, losing your vision as a senior or in your later years, as opposed to being born without vision or losing it in childhood. And I really feel like that's what we're good at. I really think if you support kids when they're young and support their families, then they don't really need a blindness organization in their adult life,
Right.
because they have all the skills and independence that they need, and they have a network of support around them already. So I don't plan to expand beyond really kind of the young adult years.
I suppose spreading your focus that broad can be, a real hindrance as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, on our board, 60% of the board has to be blind or a family member of a child who is or was blind. And that means that everybody in the organization kind of understands what we're trying to do. And there's no fighting within on, no, we need more money over here, or we need more money over there. All the money is going in the same direction for the same goal. And it's just so much easier that way.
And did you find your time at CNIB kind of informed a lot of the decisions that you made in starting it up?
What I learned, I think, when I worked at CNIB was that parents just needed a lot more support. Siblings needed support. School-age kids weren't getting enough support, and it was just a case of more. But because blindness in childhood is low incidence, there's only about 1,000 kids in BC that are legally blind, birth to 19, and there's closer to 18,000 people who are blind. So the majority of the CNIB clients are seniors, the majority are seniors. So it makes sense that they're going to put more resources towards the majority of their clients. And it's just that the kids need probably more support initially so that they don't need very much support later on. So I learned a lot working there, and I actually really enjoyed my time there. I just was frustrated that, I just felt that there needed to be more for kids. So I think having that focus and it be only for children and youth is easier.
How do you get funded?
We're funded a lot of foundation grants, a lot of applying for grants. We don't actually have any funding that rolls over from year to year. Everything that we raise through our fundraising events, like our gala, or through applying to foundations, and not a lot of corporate sponsorship yet either. A little bit of gaming money from the government. But again, that's a big proposal we have to put in every year and hope that they continue to say yes. So that has been, I had no idea I was going to spend so much of my time fundraising. It's probably at least half of my time is raising money so that we can provide the programs that we're providing.
And how many youth are in the program right now?
We probably have about 200 members from across BC. And so some of those are family members that, the parents and the siblings are considered members as well. But there's probably about 200 kids that are blind or partially sighted that have or are members now. Some people are just on our mail list, and they eventually, hopefully, will come to a program but haven't come yet. So the fact that we only have 200 and there's 1,000 in the province means we haven't reached everybody yet. Blind Beginnings is only 8 years old, so we're still pretty new and not everybody's heard of us yet. So stuff like this is really important to get the word out so people know where to turn when they have a child that's blind.
Mm-hmm. You guys also offer day camp, or not day camps, but camps for youth. What kind of activities do you guys do at these camps?
So we have 2 camp programs right now. One is our family adventure camp, and that was just 2 weeks ago on the Sunshine Coast. And the idea is that we do adventure activities during the day, but then 1 meal a day, all the kids are responsible for cooking the meal and cleaning up. And there's about 60 people that come to camp now because it's a family camp. So the kids are helping make this massive meal, learning some skills, and we have teachers of the visually impaired helping with that. This year, the activities, we went on a boat ride, we did kayaking, archery, hiking, we did a scavenger hunt. Those were kind of the activities. And obviously, we always have campfire sing-along. That's one of my favorite things. And then our other camp that we inherited 2 years ago was Camp Hornby. And it was started about 14 years ago as a camp at the Tribune Bay Outdoor Education Center on Hornby Island. So kids of all ages come. The younger kids usually come with their parents. The older kids come on their own. And there's a cabin for the girls and a cabin for the boys. And then the families that come camp on the property. And the kids they're put in smaller groups with kids their own age. And they do rock climbing, rappelling, kayaking, the leap of faith, where you climb up on this telephone pole and jump off the top, obviously in a harness, but it's very awesome. What else do they do? There's a giant's ladder, which is literally a ladder hanging in the sky that was made for giants. And you are harnessed up and you climb up in pairs of 2 and sort of help each other. It's pretty fun. So lots of challenge by choice kind of activities, where they get to basically just do the same kind of activities that any sighted kid would do, but in a supported environment. And that's really fun too.
Right.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
We got to get Steve on the Giants ladder.
Yeah.
I don't do things involving heights.
Close your eyes.
Yes. Put a blindfold on you, then you'd be fine.
I'd still know.
Cool.
I'm a major chicken when it comes to high points.
I think it is an
I hate
advantage not being able to see, really. I think it does help in those situations.
I was at space camp one time and I got pressured into doing their climbing wall by a bunch of blind kids. You know, they're the worst for peer pressure.
Yeah.
Terrible.
And how'd that go?
It left me emotionally scarred for life.
But you did it, though.
I did manage to do it, yeah.
Actually, the first time I did the leap of faith at Hornby, I climbed up to the top of the pole and I was like, had my hands on the top of the pole, but my feet were still on the little rings that you kind of use to climb up. I had one foot on the top and I had to like bring my second foot up and stand up, and I was terrified, and I was stuck there for probably, well, it seemed like I was stuck there for half an hour, but it was probably only 5 minutes. And I said, I don't think I can do this. I think I'm going to have to come back down. And one of the youth was down below. They were all holding the rope that I was harnessed to. And this kid, Deacon, says, Shawn, no limits. Because we have, Blind Beginnings has a no limits philosophy. And I'm like, crap.
Just this one limit.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do this. And so that was what pushed me. And I stood up and jumped off. And my hands are sweating just talking about it now.
That's funny you should say that, because the only reason I got up that climbing wall was because of a kid named Carmine. I think he was from New York. And I told Carmine, because he was one of the instigators. He was threatening to call me out if I didn't go up the climbing wall. And I said, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I want the biggest, fattest belayers that you can put on the rope. So he went and he gathered up the biggest kids, and then I made it, I think, about a third of the way up the wall, and I just froze. And then I hear Carmine from behind, okay, we've got 4 on the belay line now. It's like, oh, okay. And that got me moving again. And then I got about 2/3 before I froze again. And then I hear Carmine go, okay, we got 5 on the belay line now. And I made it the rest of the way up. But I don't think I could have done it without one, Carmine badgering me into doing it.
Hilarious.
And then 2, shouting encouragement to get me the rest of the way.
Good old Carmine.
Good old Carmine.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder what he's doing now.
I don't know. Well, if he's in New York, he could be one of our listeners.
You never know. Shout out to Carmine if you're out there.
You know what? I'm going to step back a bit, and because I'm fascinated about, like, it must have been a really scary to quit your job and start up a nonprofit. I mean, what was that like?
Yeah, it was scary. I guess, you know, at some point in my life, I was actually a really big chicken when I was a kid. I was afraid of everything. I was afraid, probably because I couldn't see, but I didn't know that at the time. So going really fast on my bike, I was constantly putting my feet down, or I was afraid of animals. I felt like I was just a chicken. And then something happened. I don't know. It's kind of like finding out I was visually impaired. I sort of believed that nobody expected very much of me. And that made me really want to make something of myself and challenge myself. And I wanted to be the best at something. And that's kind of, what got me into competitive sport. When I was 24, I had an opportunity to apply for an internship to work abroad. So I didn't know where I was going to end up. I just knew I would end up somewhere not here. And I got to move to England and work there for 6 months, which was probably the scariest thing I've ever done. So when it came time to quit my job, when I started considering that, I don't know, I was really driven to make the world a better place. I just wanted to make something of myself, and it just seemed possible. I also went back to school at that point to get my master's in counseling at the same time as I started the nonprofit, because I wanted a backup plan in case things didn't go well. If the organization didn't take off, I'd have a career to fall back on. And I was also still competing at the time. I was on the national goalball team, so I was getting some funding from the government to train as an athlete. So I had sort of 3 things on my plate when I first started. And those first couple years were scary, but I had some savings, and I just, I don't know. I guess I wanted to make a difference more than I wanted to be comfortable, I guess. But it was scary.
Do you feel like your time as a Paralympian and as an athlete in general sort of helped influence you in starting up? Just because of that determination, that drive that an athlete has to have?
Yeah, one of the things I thought of when I retired from sport was that I had focused all of these years on being the best in my sport, being the best athlete that I could be. And I felt like, I don't want to offend anybody, but I personally felt like that was kind of selfish, that I was focused so much on me being the best. And I kind of wanted to turn around and focus on everybody else and, put that energy into how could I create something that would really help the kids that I was working with. I just saw a lot of potential from the first, moment that I started working with visually impaired children. I could see their potential, and I could see what was needed, and what I needed. I needed to believe in myself and believe that I was capable when I was younger. And I think my life would have been really different if I had had confidence as a teenager and as a young adult. And I wanted to give these kids that opportunity, and just so they could flourish. I think I've flourished, but it took me, I was like, the ugly duckling story. It just took me a lot longer. Imagine what I would have accomplished if I had just come into the world with the confidence that I have now.
So do you have any success stories that you're super proud of? Kids that have gone on to do great things?
So some of the kids, when I started, I've only been doing this, I guess, for about 12 years. No, not even 10 years, say, with the kids that are here. So the young ones, there's one little girl that her dad came to CNIB when she was only a couple weeks old. And the person at the front desk I happened to be in the office, and I was available, and I spent a couple of hours with this dad when he had just found out that his baby was blind. And I was able to answer all of his questions. Well, not all, but many of his questions. And just kind of, I feel like that particular family, he was on the founding board of Blind Beginnings, and he's still on the board. And his daughter is now 10 and doing amazing, doing really well. But I feel like I had an opportunity to get it right with that child, because right off the bat, her parents got to meet a successful blind person that was normal, that was working, that was, just doing anything that any other person was doing. So she's only 10, so we'll see where she ends up. A lot of the other kids were teenagers when I started working with them. So some of them have gone on. One young lady is finished her degree now and decided to go back and be a teacher. And she's traveling the world working as a missionary, and just doing amazing things, competed on the goalball team as well. Some of the kids are also Paralympic athletes or trying to be. So yeah, I feel like I can't take credit for someone I met when they were 13, but I can certainly say that I've influenced a lot of the youth. Many of them are starting to get jobs now. They're going on to university. I just think that, maybe they've raised their expectations for what's in store for them in the future.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, are there other organizations in other provinces that are like yours? And did you reach out to them at all when you were first starting out, or were you completely on your own?
I actually was inspired to start Blind Beginnings after meeting Daniel Kish, who's from California, and he quit his job at a blindness organization and started World Access for the Blind. And he travels all around the world and teaches people that are blind echolocation and self-directed discovery. And so I had found out that he's totally blind and he could ride a bike using echolocation, which is you could do a whole podcast on echolocation, but
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. So I brought him to Vancouver. This is when I was working for CNIB to do an echolocation workshop for the families I was working with. And I also spent 2 days with him, and I wanted him to teach me to ride a bike. And he did. And at the time I was training in tandem cycling, and I was kind of frustrated that I needed a sighted person in order to train, in order to go out on the bike. So he taught me to ride a bike, which I have to tell you is not easy. I learned how, but I couldn't go very fast, and it wasn't something I could really use for my training, but it was one of those challenging things that, another challenge that I set for myself. But he was the one who had the no limits philosophy. And he said, everybody has limits, but when you have a disability, often people decide your limits for you, and often they're wrong. And he said that he thought people should choose their limits for themselves. And I just loved that philosophy. And I started to think about, I was fairly independent at that point, but I thought, well, how many times in my life have I decided I can't do something because either somebody told me I couldn't, or I just believed that I couldn't without even trying. And maybe they're wrong. And one of the things that really made me believe in this philosophy was Daniel, when he travels to new places, he doesn't get assistance through airports. He just travels independently through the airport. And I actually said to him, we're allowed to go to an airport and not get assistance. Like, they let blind people wander around the airport. I was quite surprised. But he said, yeah, he just asks which direction is the gate, and then he heads in that direction. And then once he goes as far as he can, he asks somebody else. And I thought, wow. And so I've never actually had the guts to try it getting on a plane, because I wouldn't want to miss my flight. But getting off the plane, often I won't get assistance anymore because I don't like having to sit there until everyone else is off the plane before they guide you off. So I just follow the line of people. And when I get to the luggage carousel, I literally touch every bag as it goes along. And always somebody will say, do you need some help finding your bag? I'm like, yeah, actually. I'm looking for a black bag. Can you help me with that? I'm just kidding. But so yeah, I sort of modeled, well, Blind Beginnings is nothing like World Access for the Blind, except for we adopted the philosophy. But that was kind of the inspiration. And since then, I realized there is an organization in Ontario called Views, but it's more of a parent advocacy group. And there is something in Alberta as well, which I haven't gotten a ton of information on. I mean, I've been pretty busy just focused on British Columbia and trying to serve this province. But I don't think that there's anything really exactly like Blind Beginnings, to my knowledge anyways. And people in other provinces sometimes call me up and they have a child that's blind, or they know a child that's blind and they've found us on the internet and they want to know what support is there for them in Manitoba or wherever they happen to be. And I kind of, provide information and resources, but I don't really have anybody to refer them to most of the time.
Right.
You need to franchise.
Yeah, I'm nervous to do that. I mean, I think also being a national organization or a bigger organization, you have more rules to follow and more, it comes with its challenges too. So sure. I don't know if I want to do that. I think that each province would have to be run separately, but sort of with the same philosophy, maybe. Maybe that something like that could work.
Because of how big Canada is and each province is, do you have online meetings or seminars or workshops that people can join?
We do teleconferencing for our youth program because kids come from all over the province. So they come to the training weekend, and that's held in the Lower Mainland, but then they have to attend follow-up meetings and they call into those. We're also trying to do a parent support group using Skype, but for families that are more rural, because really they're the ones that are really isolated and need the support. But Skype has its drawbacks. So I think that there's a way to reach people more using technology, and that's not my strength. So, but I don't know about nationally. Right now we're really just provincial. Mm-hmm. So we got Skype Business, and apparently that can accommodate a bit more, but I've heard that it cuts out, and you can't be doing a support group where you're talking about, grieving over the loss of your child's vision and somebody's crying and then they're cutting out and, oh, sorry, we've lost you. You just can't do that. It has to be reliable. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so do your programs run all year round?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no summers off for me. So a lot of weekends and evenings, obviously, because kids are in school and parents are working. So most of our workshops take place on weekends or evenings, and then our summer camp programs. The youth leadership training is usually a 3-day program in the spring. But yeah, it's pretty much ongoing, and we're in the office Monday to Thursday. And so people can always, we're always there as a resource for people to call.
And I saw on your calendar you have an event coming up in November. Can you tell us more about that?
Oh, yeah. Blind Beginnings has talent. So this is a fundraiser that the youth have taken on. It's part of the youth leadership program is to plan this talent event every year, and it's a fundraiser. So historically, I think this is our 3rd year, but it was a competition. So Blind Beginnings has talent. People who were blind of all ages would compete. There were judges and obviously a winner. We've decided to change the format and make it more of a celebration of talent. So people will be performing, but it won't be a competition. But we also want to showcase talent around the room. So if people have done art or writing or poetry or sculptures or whatever their art is, or whatever their talent is, we'll have it on display around the room. And then if you have a performance talent, then you can perform as well. And we're just sort of waiting for people to sign up. So if you're blind or visually impaired and you have a talent, doesn't matter how old you are, you just have to become a member of Blind Beginnings to compete, which is $10 for an individual membership. And then you can join the show. We're also opening it up to, multiple people can perform together. So if people like a duet or a small band, if you want to do something with somebody, then you're allowed to do that. When it was a competition, it was kind of one person at a time. So it should be really fun. But yeah, the youth are responsible for organizing the event and finding the talent and selling tickets. We're looking for some sponsorship for the event. If anybody wants to be a sponsor, we definitely appreciate that as well. So it should be really fun.
Now, are you always developing new programs?
Yes. I'm hesitating because in the beginning, the first couple of years, I had a million ideas and tried to do a whole bunch of things all at the same time. And I think that we sort of look at it as we have 4 core programs: children's program, youth program, parent program, and family program. But within that, there's a lot of variety and things are always changing. So our youth leadership program has kind of run a certain way for a number of years. And now we're bringing in this intensive life skill, live for 5 days. We also want to start doing individual career counseling with the youth that are in the program. So things evolve from where they are. But if I feel like nobody else is doing it and I think that it's important and it can benefit the kids, then I definitely am willing to entertain the idea of how can we make this a program.
So it sounds like you've got a lot on your plate. It sounds like you're fundraising, you're developing the programs. Like, what's your day must be just...
She's a wife. She's a mom.
I'm a mom. Yeah. The little boy's going to be 3 next week.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yeah. There is no. It's funny when people ask me like, "What's an average day look like for you?" Well, it really varies. Yeah, I'm sort of the face of Blind Beginnings too. So sometimes I'm out, meeting with donors or networking with other professionals or just at events. But then I'm also reviewing grant applications. I'm creating programs. I'm still the one that's facilitating the majority of our programs. We have another part-time program person now that's assisting me, which is awesome. I'm hoping that having another person on staff to do some of the programs here might mean that I can reach other parts of the province. But yeah, it's very busy, but I love that. I love that there's lots of variety in my job. It's very rewarding as well. Working directly with the parents and the families and watching that transition take place when I've got parents with really young children that come forward and they're just devastated and they can't see the potential, right? And then over time, as they kind of become immersed in our community, they realize that, okay, that things are going to be okay and their child is still going to have a meaningful life. And when I can see that transition take place, it's very rewarding, and it really makes all the other grinding work that I do worth it.
And so are you excited about the Paralympics?
Well, I am excited, but it's not really televised. I was pretty hooked on the Olympics, actually. I was watching it all the time, and I just love that no matter what time of day, you could turn on the TV and watch some competition. I think that's pretty awesome. And unfortunately, the Paralympics is not, there's not the exposure that there is, but I do have, friends that are competing and I'm rooting for them, and yeah, go Canada, go.
I thought CBC was televising.
I think CBC usually does a little bit, but nothing to the amount that they do for the regular Olympics. And I think AMI is going to do some as well.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, that's possible. I know when I competed, there were two 4-hour blocks of televised Paralympics that happened after we were all back home already. So sometimes there'll be a special where they kind of showcase the highlights. And there was one little blip of us on the road race that was that was shown. But there might be some stuff online too. I know goalball is not being covered and people are very upset about that. Yeah. So I guess I just assumed there wasn't going to be very much coverage. I haven't actually looked into it, but I hadn't thought of AMI. They must be covering some of it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that they wouldn't cover it. I mean, it's so easy to have online distribution.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Just no excuse.
Yeah. And it's I think personally that it's pretty fascinating to watch people with disabilities competing. I know when I was cycling, the sighted pilots that came with us to compete were kind of blown away by, you'd see cyclists with one leg or one arm and one leg riding on the track. That's pretty ballsy.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Was that word okay?
Absolutely.
We've said much worse.
Okay.
I went up to Whistler to watch the skiing in the Paralympics when they were here, and I was there to cheer on Vivian Foray, and I saw some of the other skiing events, and the one that impressed me the most was the paraplegic sit skiers. Yeah. Those guys are crazy.
Yes.
They're absolutely crazy. And if you're into a sport where you like to see things crash, you definitely want to watch this sport, because those guys have some absolutely terrifying wipeouts.
Yes. Well, wheelchair rugby too, right? They're just crashing into each other and knocking each other out of their chairs. And I mean, who wouldn't want to watch that?
Is that the same as Murder Ball?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that is crazy. And that's such a great documentary too.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So I think that if the able-bodied world kind of had a better understanding of disabled sport, they would want to watch it. But because they don't get the exposure, they don't really know what they're missing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen goalball played, but I would love to see it.
Oh, well, you can also go on YouTube and look up goalball games, international competitions and stuff, just to get an idea. But it's pretty awesome, especially at the elite level. It's very fast-paced, fun game.
And they're crazy.
Kind of, yeah. Who throws themselves on the floor like by choice, right?
In front of a weighted ball that's
Yes.
traveling at you at
Yes.
70 miles an hour.
It's really fun, and it's one of the only team sports where everybody is blind. Everybody wears a blindfold. So I love, I mean, when I was cycling, I was still reliant on a sighted person to do my sport. But in goalball, you're kind of on an even playing field with everybody out there, which I really love that about the sport.
Is there any reason why they hold the Paralympics so long after the regular Olympics? Like, is there any reason why they couldn't just have it like literally days after?
I imagine they kind of have to clean everything up and get ready for the next crew coming in. They probably have to maybe put in ramps in places where there aren't any, or I don't really know the answer to that. I know they can't do it at the same time because it would just go on way too long.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it starts 2 weeks after the Olympics finishes. So I'm guessing that it's just time to kind of get ready again for this whole new slew of athletes coming in.
Yeah, I suppose venues need to be retooled. And
I think so. But it is kind of unfortunate because the city itself often forgets about, okay, it's over. Like it feels like it's over, but the Paralympics hasn't actually started yet. So hopefully they're still ready and excited.
I think so. And I think even, people in general, viewership, I mean, the Olympics are over, they're burned out on them. And then, so 2 weeks later, when the Paralympics start, nobody's really paying all that much attention to it.
Yeah.
And that's probably part of the reason why they don't televise as much of the Paralympics, because they would have to have their film crews all sitting around
Stay
for 2
there.
weeks.
Yeah.
That's a pretty major expense for any network just to have them, waiting around.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, you'd think that maybe it might even almost be worth it to have it like the Winter Olympics, where a year following the regular Olympics, they just have it as its own event, as opposed to a tack on to the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, as a former Paralympic athlete, I thought it was pretty awesome to go to be in the same village and to eat the same food and to compete in the same venue. Like, I don't know if it would feel the same because if it happened a year later, does it even have to happen in the same place? Like, I don't know. I think it would lose something. True. I don't know what the answer is. Some people say we'll incorporate them together.
Yeah, I would think that would make way more sense.
But then because there's so many classifications in disability, so it's not just a person in a wheelchair, depending on where your spinal cord injury is or, what your disability is, you're going to have many heats of the same race sometimes, or it's really hard. It's hard. I think if they incorporated them, a lot of athletes wouldn't get there, and it would sort of be the top end of, I don't know, the ones with the least amount of disability would maybe be invited, but probably not everybody, or it would have to be a month long.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm willing to have sport on my TV for a month.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Oh, this year was really hard to find anything. I found CBC's broadcast pretty horrible.
Really?
Yeah, we had a hard time finding any coverage.
Well, just be glad you weren't NBC. NBC was just horrendous. A lot of people complained about it, which is crazy. We're in an age where we could literally have hundreds of channels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You could have had all the content right there at your fingertips. Whatever event you wanted to watch, you should have been able to watch
Tune into it
streaming live on the internet.
I think it's different in other countries. I know when I was in Athens competing, it was on the TV there constantly all the time. And actually, some friends of mine just told me in the UK, the Paralympics is televised daily during the Paralympics. So it depends where you live.
Right.
How long did you play goalball for?
Well, competitively, 4 years, but I played for years, sort of while I was cycling and swimming. I was always playing goalball, just more on going to nationals and stuff, but not actually on the national team. I had some coaches that didn't really want me to play goalball when I was doing other sports because it can be, a little physically demanding. But once I retired from cycling, then I was able to focus on goalball, and it's about 4 years.
So out of the three, which event did you enjoy the most?
Goalball. I guess Because it was everybody's blind. There wasn't any sighted assistance required. When I was swimming with, when I started, I had to swim with 12-year-olds. I was 18 because that's the speed that I was at as an 18-year-old, just starting to swim competitively. And then I gradually got to swim with people my own age. And then for a while, they put me in a group with everybody else in my club had cerebral palsy, and I was the only one that was blind. And that was they put everybody with a disability together. They just all happened to have the same disability. And so I was physically faster than them in the water, but I couldn't see them. So I was constantly swimming on top of people, which also was not so fun. And then when I went to university, I swam with the Masters Swim Club. And so everybody was sighted again. That was a bit better, but a wide range, like Masters swimming is over 20, but a lot of people were in their 40s so goalball was somewhere where I just fit in. I was playing goalball with people that I liked that had the same disability that I did, and I just found it to be a lot of fun.
And it's also a team sport, I guess, which is very different than...
It is, yeah. And I mean, tandem cycling, I guess you could argue you're a small team, and I enjoyed the cycling too, but it was a lot of training on my own. I couldn't ride with my pilot every day, so it was a lot of riding my bike, like hooked up with I forget what to call it now. Anyway, you clip the back wheel in and you can ride inside, and me and the
right trainer.
Yeah. Me and the TV or the loud music by myself a lot of the time. And the thing with cycling, I was the only female in Canada competing in tandem cycling at the time. So even when we went to nationals, we were racing against the men because there were no other women. And when we competed locally in local races, we were the only tandem. So there was not a lot of opportunity to really compete and feel like I was racing against my peers. So that kind of had some downfalls too, but goalball kind of was the best of everything.
Now, do you know, has that changed? Are there more female tandem bikers these days?
I think that it's pretty much, seems like there's always just one or maybe two women in Canada. I know somebody that's going to the Paralympics in Rio who's doing tandem cycling. She used to play goalball. I think she might be the only female representing Canada. I'm not 100% sure, though. I've kind of lost touch with the cycling world since I retired.
Right. Would you have any advice for somebody out there right now that's in the position that you were in 8 years ago and is thinking about breaking away, quitting their job and starting up a nonprofit? What would be the piece of advice that you would give them other than don't do it?
Come work for me instead. No, I was really lucky in that I was training, so I had some income and I had some savings and I had a backup plan. Like it was a risk, but it was a pretty cushioned risk. I feel like, I know my family was really worried. It's hard to get a job when you're blind. And I had a job with benefits and a pension, and I gave that up, and people thought I was just absolutely crazy. But I do think that I'm really, really lucky to be doing a job that I love. I love going to work. Sometimes it's easier than being home with a toddler. So you got to follow your passion, really. And if it's rewarding and it makes you happy, then I really believe, people often ask me, well, what kind of jobs can blind people do? And I think that find something you love and you will be successful. But if you try to be pigeonholed into something because of your vision loss, I don't know that that's necessarily the right way to go. So, people say, oh, go work for a bank because they like to hire people with disabilities. And maybe there's nothing wrong with working for a bank if that's what you're excited and passionate about. But I don't think you should go there if you don't want to do that kind of career. So, yeah, I just think do something you love, do something you're passionate about, and more than likely you'll be successful.
So when you started out, like what was your most valued resource? Like what really?
Google. How do you become a society? Literally, I found Charity Village. They're a pretty good resource for managing nonprofits. literally brought together a bunch of parents of blind kids and youth to initially ask them, what services do you want to see for your kids in this province? And that was sort of the backbone of what we were going to provide through Blind Beginnings. I had ideas of what I thought, but I didn't want to just make it all up based, on what I wanted. So the families have been a great resource to me, and the internet. And I know some really amazing professionals in the field too, some teachers of the visually impaired that are, very knowledgeable and very passionate about the work that they're doing, very committed. And they've helped me sort of develop our programs as well. So it's I think that I belong to a really amazing community. Yeah, we're going to turn things around for the kids of tomorrow.
Excellent.
For the Carmines of tomorrow.
Yes. I do really want to go to space camp, though. That's on my bucket list.
It's a hoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'd like to, of course, thank Shawn for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
We have an email address.
We do. It's true. And it's atbanterpodcast@gmail.com.
You are getting good at that, sir.
I only heard it about 375 times now. So.
We also have a website. It's www.atbanter.com.
And you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Google+.
And anybody out there who wants to get a hold of Shawn, we'll link to Blind Beginnings in the show notes. We'll have all our contact information. If you're interested in a program, you're interested in giving them some money, anything at all, feel free to reach out.
But reaching out with money is better.
We like money. Means I can focus more on programs. So, yeah.
Ryan, what do we got going on next week?
Next week, we have a guest from Blind Alive. They design fitness programs for people who are blind and low vision.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they based?
In the U.S. That's as close as I can get right now.
All right. Well, until next week then, I've been Rob Minot.
And I've been Ryan Fleury.
And I remain Steve Barclay.
And we will see you guys next week. Thanks for listening. Ciao.
Maine.
Via con Dios.
Shalom.
Hasta la vista.
Sayonara.
Hang ten.
Bye-bye.
Excellent.
This podcast has been brought to you by Aroga Technologies. Visit Aroga Technologies online at www.aroga.com. That's AROGA.com. Music provided by bensound.com.